Oh, I'm on Boston too. Thought I'd throw that out. Not basketball.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's
avoid
ironic.
them for a showdown tonight. What is happening, everybody? And welcome to a Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock. And today is going to be a good one because I am joined with my dear friend, Eric Lindquist. He is back. We don't get him around all that often these days. He's a little bit of a big timer. He has in his rider that he will only do X amount of shows on the Stokastic channel per day. He's more of an odd shopper guy these days. But here at Stokastic, he has blessed us to come and talk about this one-game slate between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. So as you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Prize Picks, who are sponsoring our show today. The reason you guys know they are the sponsor, Eric is decked out in apparel. He has a Prize Picks t-shirt. He has Prize Picks on the television behind him. So Eric is all ready to go and talk about Prize Picks today. What's happening, man?
It's like in Spaceballs, where he's showing off the merchandise. Spaceballs, the t-shirt. Spaceballs, the cup. Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids love this one.
Aren't they remaking Spaceballs?
Please tell me they're not. Everything's getting remade.
It's very possible that I dreamed this and it's not true, but I want to say that there's something that they're doing.
Stay off the weed.
What is it? All right. I might have totally made this up, by the way.
You had to have. I heard nothing of the sort, and I feel like that is something I would be very interested to know.
It might be a sequel to Spaceballs that's rumored to be coming out. Is that possible?
Makes sense. That could be.
Yeah. Well, who knows? This could absolutely be something that happened while I was sleeping, or a different movie that I'm thinking about. Because, I mean, we do know other things like Harry Potter. There is a remake being planned about that. So some of these things are definitely in the works. But yeah, I think I just made up fake news there.
Cool.
Whatever, it happens. It's nothing that is going to be all
Sean
that
V reveals himself. It's you. The whole time.
Excuse me. My name is Brandon Katz. I'm not Sean V. I don't know what it is you're talking about. Different person.
My bad.
Anyway, one-game NBA slate today. Obviously, the biggest news of the day, Joel Embiid. He was originally not expected to play in this game. If we're going back to, prior to the series starting, this was being labeled as something that was going to be a multi-week injury. And then we ended up finding out the other day he was present at shoot-around, but he was doubtful. And then even for today, he was listed as doubtful ahead of the game than earlier in the day. Goes through shoot-around. We end up finding he's going to play. What is your confidence on how relatively healthy he's going to be? Like, are we seeing a 100% healthy Joel Embiid? 50%? 70%? What is your feel on this?
It's one of those things where it's like, it's Joel Embiid. It's impossible on a showdown slate to just say, I'm going to disregard him. Like, maybe you could if you think he's going to play 24 minutes, but I think he's going to be right around, I don't know. What's going on? What just happened? Was that somebody sneezing? What was that?
Oh, I clicked the mute button? I thought I clicked the mute button. Did I not click the mute button? Oh, did I really? So all right. So here's what happened.
I just saw Jordan's face and I was just like, what just happened?
So I'll tell you exactly what happened. This was, I had to sneeze. And so what I do when I know I'm about to sneeze is I click the mute button because, it's not that hard to do. You click the mute button, but also I have an absurd amount of screens in front of me right now. So my setup right now, I'm going to show everybody here. So I have this computer here. I have
how rich, bro.
My other screen over here. I have my iPad on here, which I use to watch baseball games while I'm doing the show. And then on my other laptop over here that I'm usually running lineups on. So I have a lot to pay attention to while I'm doing this. Is the point here. And what I meant to do, by the way, is what I tried to do was click the mute button. Now, what is right next to the mute button in Zoom? What's right next to it is the stop video button, which turns your camera off. So I tried to do the Homer Simpson thing, which, like he farts and he tries to cover it up with the music in the car. And kind of what I did, I was like, oh no, I have to sneeze here. I am going to turn my video off. Not intentionally. I tried to hit the mute button and accidentally turn the TV off.
Chad counts. Elite showdown analysis right now. That's my thought. I was just like, man, really, I'm glad we're getting a tour of Greg Ehrenberg's office and all the accessories that DraftKings accessorized him with. How rich, bro. Oh my God. Yeah. See, I love my Apple Watch though too. The Ultra, I'm not even going to knock it. I
didn't think I was going to like it, but I do now that I have it here. Anyway, we do also have basketball to talk about. I was trying to ask you about Joel Embiid, and then I apparently fucked up the first 7 minutes of the show there.
Sure did.
So Joel Embiid, reset.
Mm-hmm.
What is your expectation for him tonight? Are we seeing full minutes? Is he going to look healthy? What do you expect from him?
I'm probably in like the 85% camp. I don't know if that's a camp or if we're, set up shop somewhere random. Like, it's hard for me to imagine that if your star, your now reigning MVP for the NBA in 2023, it's hard to imagine that if he's healthy, or if he's healthy enough to be playing, that he's not at least like 85%. It would be really stupid not to just rest him here and send him back to Philly, have him get treatment, just start getting ready to rock. I mean, do the Jimmy Butler thing where it's like, all right, you're obviously not good to go. Let's just pack it in. Let's get ready to rock for game 3 and call it a day. So like, I don't think you're going to put him out there if he's 50%. I don't think you're going to put him out there if he's 70, 75%. So I'm going to put him in for right now, 34 minutes, 32 minutes. And yeah, he's showing up in lineups. I don't think we need to be hitting eject. Like, I know about as well as you do, but it's just kind of using deductive reasoning. Now, Glenn Rivers is an idiot, so there's that. But I think we have to just assume pretty close to full health.
I'm not going to assume close to full health. I have no clue what to make of him. Here's what I want to do. I want to look at our ownership projections. I want to look at what the field is doing, and I just want to do the same thing the field is doing. And I'll be like, I don't know what's going to happen with Joel Embiid. I'm not going to let him make or break my night. Whatever stupid things I do, whatever I do, turn my camera off randomly during the show, that's on me. I am not going to go out and I just don't feel confident enough in Joel Embiid to be like, he's going to play 38 minutes. He's going to play 32. I don't know. So I just want to align myself with the field. This is what I did with Julius Randle the other day when he was really cheap. Last night, right? I was just like, all right, he's fairly cheap. I have no clue if he's playing 25 minutes. I don't know if he's playing 35. I don't know how healthy he's going to look. I just align myself with the field. That's what I want to do tonight with Joel Embiid as well. I'm not going to take any kind of stance with him. Considering what you just said about Joel Embiid, do you imagine that you're going to be underweight to him at the field or overweight?
I'm going to be overweight in the utility. I'm probably going to be underweight in the captain spot based on what we're looking at right now. Right around 18.4% in the captain spot. Jason Tatum pulling a little bit more ownership, but then it's a pretty wide gap between them and Jaylen Brown. And for me, I think it's just a piece that I want to be overweight in the utility because, well, there's a possibility people don't get to him in the same kind of way because they do have those kind of worries. They do have those apprehensions. But even as you're projecting him out with, again, I have him in for 34 minutes right now. And that feels like a healthy number. We have him at 33 minutes here at Stokastic and 47% ownership there in the utility. He's a 1.63 fantasy point per minute guy. Like, I think just having more exposure to him there, trying to get different builds where even if he puts up 60, 65, you could still find yourself with the nuts in a different regard. But I mean, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up less than the field by about a half in terms of the captain ownership. And then I'll just jam in utility. And I think that gives me more paths where Joel Embiid, the way I presume him to be, 80, 85%, I think it works out for me more times than not, just have him in the utility.
And reading off our current ownership projections, we'll do it for DraftKings. I will do it for FanDuel. And then your guys' questions, we'll be taking those. If you're in our Discord chat and you have questions for us, at me. I will answer those. If you're on YouTube and you have super chats, hit us up with those. We'll be answering those as well. But Joel Embiid right now is not the most popular player on the slate on DraftKings. That is Jason Tatum. He's actually Tatum most popular on DraftKings and FanDuel. Joel Embiid, though, projected for 65.4% ownership overall. That includes 18.4% captain ownership, 47% utility ownership. On FanDuel, Joel Embiid is projected for 47.6% ownership, 28.2% in the MVP spot, and then we're at 16.7% in the star, 2.5% in the pro. So as we go through, we'll be talking about DraftKings, FanDuel, and different ways that we can maybe get different here as we build out lineups. Super chat here from Nathan Futi. Nathan wants to know, who would you pick for captain on DraftKings? So let's look at this a couple of different ways, Eric. I think we should look at it as a cash game type safe play, and then we'll also go contrarian and say if we're going contrarian to captain, where we would look to go. But first, if you just want to be chalky at captain on DK, who is the one you get to the most? If just optimal captain play in your opinion?
Jason Tatum. It's for me pretty clear cut that if I'm going to play chalk at captain, it's going to be Jason Tatum.
And now on the other side, if you're going to take a chance on somebody contrarian, which we'll call it anybody who's below 10% owned in the captain spot. So there are 4 players who are currently projected for double-digit ownership in the captain spot on DK. That is Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, James Harden. You play anybody else in the captain spot, and you're somewhat contrarian as far as your lineup goes. Who do you like who is not one of those 4 players to get contrarian with?
I'm nervous about it, but my second highest owned captain right now is Robert Williams.
I love it.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah. So just if you're talking about who has the most upside relative to their ownership and price, the answer to me is almost always going to be Robert Williams in these spots. And he's going to be really inconsistent. I don't know what to make of his minutes in the playoffs either. Remember, we had that super, super weird game where Grant Williams was ahead of him in the rotation. So his minutes end up going up and down. The last 4 games, he's played 20 minutes, 17 minutes, 27 minutes, 29 minutes. We've seen games where he scored as many as 44 fantasy points in that stretch. We also had the game where he scored 14. Not a cash game play, but for tournaments where you're trying to capture that upside and the range of outcomes with Robert Williams, I think he really does make sense in the captain spot. And I assume that's a lot of your reasoning as well.
Well, my reasoning has to do with a couple of things. One, Joel Embiid's in this basketball game. So you're running into multiple outs where Robert Williams could run into more minutes. 1, Al Horford isn't being effective. 2, Al Horford runs into foul trouble. 3, they need Robert Williams on the floor defensively to do things against Joel Embiid. And you could talk about foul trouble for guys when you're facing Joel Embiid, but when you're only playing 17 and 20 minutes the last 2 games, there's only upside in your minutes. So like, I think regardless of any foul trouble or anything, like it doesn't matter when you talk about it from Robert Williams' perspective, whereas it definitely matters from Al Horford's perspective. He's 3% in the captain spot right now. And we know the kind of block stock upside that he can bring to the table when he gets minutes. Now, if he walks into 24-25, the man is only 7,500 when you put up in the captain spot. He allows me to get to Tatum, Embiid, Brown. I can play them in the same type lineups. I can rotate through 2 of the 3 in pretty much every single lineup that I have. And I think getting exposure to those high floors with them, if I'm going to go to a cheaper captain, at least show me the path to 40. I think it's pretty clear cut how Robert Williams could get there.
Yep, I see it the exact same way. And once again, not a safe play. If he has a bad game or if he plays 16 minutes, wouldn't be shocked. If the Celtics randomly decide Grant Williams is playing a bunch of minutes now because they need to mix something up after losing game 1, wouldn't be shocked by that either. But I know what the upside, I know what the ceiling looks like with Robert Williams. And that is what I'm trying to capture. One more question while we're on the captain spot here. Which player do you think is most overowned as a captain on DraftKings? Who's somebody you're undercutting the field on?
Yeah, it's probably Joel Embiid in the captain spot. I know it sounds redundant for me to say it, but there are enough concerns about Joel Embiid, what those minutes could be, that I just feel a lot more comfortable playing a lot of him where you only need him to be 1 of 5 as opposed to the guy. And when you're looking at a 5th of lineups getting thrown in there, I'm not sure what the field's doing. And maybe we get to lock and he ends up 13, 14%, and you have more Tatum and Brown, and people were really worried about him. Maybe James Harden gets steamed up after an incredible game 1. Lots of ways that this could like end up making me look like an idiot. But I think Joel Embiid, just when people are confident in something that has some uncertainty, you kind of want to be hitting the brakes on it. So weird to say, but as much as I like Embiid for this slate, I don't like his ownership at the captain spot.
Yeah. So for me, the answer is, and by the way, this is not somebody who's massively popular, but even at his ownership, I found a little curious. Derek White is projected for 6.5% ownership in the captain spot. And, you know, like I said, I'm trying to align myself with the field on Joel Embiid. Jason Tatum, I understand why he's popular. I understand why James Harden is popular, especially because if Joel Embiid plays somewhat limited minutes, James Harden turned the clock back last game. He looked as good as he's looked since he won the MVP award. Jaylen Brown also, I understand why he's picking up ownership. So I have to go a little bit down the board and try to find who I don't like as much as the field. And that's where I land on Derek White, who is the 5th most popular captain behind these guys. And I just don't see Derek White as having that kind of upside in this matchup. Last game, we did see him only play 27 minutes. He's also fairly expensive at 6K relative to the kind of production you typically get out of Derek White when everybody's healthy. So I'm undercutting the field on Derek White, underweight to him in the captain spot, underweight to him in the utility. Do you have any takes on Derek White? Is he somebody you're also underweight to, or do you like him more than me?
He's probably the one piece I wanted to talk to you about the most, because if you watch the game, it's as bad as Derek White can play. I know that he didn't exactly do anything from a fantasy perspective in that closeout game 6 against Atlanta, but there was still I was a little bit surprised to see Derek White fall to 27 minutes, even despite everything there. Part of it is like, you're not knocking down threes and Malcolm Brogdon comes in immediately and just sets the world on fire like he did. Derek White probably walks into 32 minutes, 33 minutes. I think this had more to do with how well Brogdon played. 34 minutes for him, that's a playoff high outside of what? Yeah, that's a playoff high for him. Derek White, playoff low. I think it could just as easily switch between the two. But as you said, one's pulling all the ownership, whereas the other one is seeing some kind of reduced value at a cheaper tag. So I'm probably going to be going more towards the Brogdon route because of that, not because I think Derek White is some terrible play.
And now we've got a question about the FanDuel side of things. MVP for a single entry with 3K entries. So if we look at the FanDuel contest, and FanDuel is so much different than DraftKings when it comes to these single game slates, especially because there's just no multiplier in the salary for the players in the MVP spot. So what ends up happening? We have Jason Tatum projected for 34% ownership in the MVP, Joel Embiid at 28%, then James Harden is 21%, Jaylen Brown 11.7%. It's hard for me to think anybody else is all that likely to be the highest scoring player in this game. Would you agree?
I agree.
So I'm looking at those 4 players now, and the ownership is there on Tatum. It's there on Embiid. I think if you play this game out 100 times, I tend to think Jaylen Brown is probably going to be the highest scorer more than 11 of those times, which is right where his ownership is at right now. So I think that if you guys are playing a single entry tournament on FanDuel, I would lean towards Jaylen Brown as being my MVP. Now for you, Eric, Jaylen Brown, is it somebody else? Would you go chalkier? How would you approach the MVP spot on FanDuel?
I think for MVP, I would be playing a lot of Jason Tatum. When it comes to the chalk specifically on this slate, Boston's going to do everything, barring foul trouble. Jason Tatum's going to play 42 plus minutes. There's no way that you don't have Tatum on there for almost every single minute you can. Going back to Philly down 0-2, it's not a death sentence by any means. Boston's a really good basketball team, but that was kind of my concern, is that they've kind of gotten lackadaisical in a couple of these spots, whether it was the Atlanta series. We saw it so many times during the regular season. They would go and lose to Houston, Detroit, weird spots where a team that is this good with this many pieces shouldn't be losing those kind of games. But you combat that by just playing Jason Tatum infinity minutes, Jaylen Brown infinity minutes. I do think you need to get Robert Williams on the floor against Joel Embiid for this game. There's a lot of ways that Boston can combat some of the problems that they had from game 1. And for me, it's just like, well, you played him 44 minutes last time around. Why wouldn't you just kind of leave that to be the case? And when he's a 1.42 fantasy point per minute guy over on DK, pretty close to that over on FanDuel as well, I think you just kind of jam him at the MVP spot. If you're trying to get different, I like the Jaylen Brown call a little bit more than even Joel Embiid, who's going to be pulling more ownership there.
So then the other question I want to ask you is, if you are playing Jason Tatum in the MVP spot on FanDuel, and I assume for single entry, he's probably going to be juiced up a little more, maybe like close to 50% owned in the MVP spot for single entries. What would you do to differentiate that lineup? If you're playing Tatum in the MVP, just hand building one lineup, do you leave salary on the table? Is there contrarian play you like? What would be the angle, if anything?
Yeah, well, so there's a number of ways you do it. Number 1, leaving salary on the table is that. Number 2, it's not having Tatum or Embiid in an MVP spot. Number 3, you could get to somebody where you're maxing out the 4 guys who just get tons of run. And I'm just looking at the salaries over here on FanDuel right now. I had built a lineup a little bit earlier today, but being a little difficult here at the moment. But I think that there's a case to be made for getting to like absolute bottom barrel guys where you're jamming Tatum, Embiid, Brown in some capacity, and you rotate through who could be the guy to pick up 10, 12 minutes and just hope you run really good. Like Paul Reed. I think Paul Reed is somebody that makes a lot of sense for tournaments today, where if Joel Embiid is limited, if he's more like he's 50%, we're only going to play him 24 minutes, or this turns into a massive blowout and they decide to sit Embiid, Paul Reed walks into a lot of minutes and a lot of opportunity, and he's going to be a little bit cheaper across the entire industry today, just having an opportunity at some spots. but nobody's going to click on him at 11K on FanDuel. Like, there's not a single soul that's going to click on him there. He's what, 7.7% owned in the utility spot right now? Like, that would be the case that you make where it's just like, all right, I'm not going to have Embiid. I would never play the two of them in the same lineup, especially at these tags. But like getting to a Paul Reed, just assuming or guessing that Joel Embiid isn't 100% healthy, don't hate it.
Yep. I mean, I don't have. Are you playing many lineups with Paul Reed or just like here and there taking shots on him?
No. So, I mean, I have a couple on DK where I just decided, hey, Joel Embiid gets limited. It turns out really, really wonky. I'm more in the camp where Joel Embiid is healthier. I already talked about that, but why wouldn't I have a share or two of Paul Reed sitting there at complete, zero ownership, just in case? I mean, he's what? I'd be surprised if he was over 4 or 5% when it comes down to it. Like, I would be absolutely shocked on DK in the utility spot if that were the case. So I don't think you have to be playing him in the MVP by any means, but playing him absent a Joel Embiid, I don't completely hate the idea.
All right, let's get to one more super chat and then talk a little bit about Prize Picks. They are the sponsor of the show. Eric has come dressed in all of his free apparel there, so I want to make sure we give them some time, and also we'll walk through some of the projections and tools we have on the site, see if we could find a good option there for some good options for Prize Picks to build a player card, to build a prop card with. Next super chat though, Nathan Feudy is asking, who are our 5 mid-range guys on DraftKings? All right, so 5 favorite mid-range plays. Let's see. What do we want to
just give you both starting lineups from both teams? How's that? No, I'm kidding. It's good to be back with everybody. I was kidding.
Let's see. Mid-range, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Al Horford.
I have 100% Robert Williams, so he probably goes number 1. Obviously, that's not all in the captain spot. I have 28% in the captain spot, so I have way more than 3%. I will throw that out there. But I'm just playing that narrative to the bank. So he's number 1. I'm probably going to go Malcolm Brogdon 2. Let's see, where did my ownership go? Your Marcus Smart 3. I hate that. I hate it. But
there's also only so many mid-range guys. Like, he's asking us for our 5 favorite mid-range plays. There's only like what, 8 guys that are mid-range on the entire slate. So like, I think Derek White is a better play in the utility spot than the captain on DraftKings.
I would agree with that. I like Tobias Harris too. I've kind of been a Tobias Harris stan throughout these playoffs after that game 1 where I was just like, he looks better than we've seen in a long time. And I think obviously with Joel Embiid out on the floor, it's going to be a little bit different, but they were playing pretty well and in sync together there during that Brooklyn series. Different defensive series, different caliber of a team here in Boston, but I still think getting over the field on Tobias Harris is something I want to do.
All right. Ready to talk about some Prize Picks? It seems like you came ready.
I did.
Just based on the eye test, it seems like you came ready to talk about Prize Picks.
Be observant.
Do you have any Prize Picks cards that you built for today for yourself?
You
do. All right. Well, it's time to give the people some of that information. But first, if you guys haven't signed up at Prize Picks, you should sign up using the link we have below, because not only will it get you a deposit bonus of up to $100, you are also going to get yourself 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So all the tools that we have over at Stokastic to help you build DFS lineups comes with what's pretty much free. You can throw $10 into Prize Picks. They match you with $10 and you get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Pretty damn good deal right there. So something to take advantage of. But Eric, what else should people be taking advantage of in terms of the props? What looks good to you? What's projecting well?
Yeah, so there's 2 specifically. They're steamed up by a half point compared to where they're sitting at a lot of books, but I like Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey in terms of points and points alone, 25 and 21.5. Again, steamed up a tiny bit, but remember, you're just looking for expected win percentages. We here at Stokastic have them projected north of these numbers, and I'm just kind of a fan of having some kind of correlation when it comes to these 1-game slates on Prize Picks cards, especially because I'm building a lot of 5 flex cards, 6 flex cards, just kind of rotating through some different plays there, and having positive correlation just on being on the more for both of those plays makes a lot of sense. And then the fantasy scores have been really, really low in a couple of spots. What do you have Malcolm Brogdon projected for on FanDuel today? Because they use FanDuel scoring for this.
Let's see. Brogdon in Our projections today, we've got Brogdon sitting at a little over 30 fantasy points.
He's at 25 on Prize Picks.
Pretty low.
Just saying, it's a slam dunk. So again, there's positive correlation rotating between all three of them. Malcolm Brogdon is an absolute smash at that kind of a number. You could go to the correlation by taking a less on 23.5 fantasy score for Derek White, even though I find that one to be pretty darn efficient. So I mean, there's things like that you can do where you take more on one player, less on the other. And there's some really good correlation that you can find doing it. So those are kind of the three. I've rotated them through with some other plays that I find to be appealing. I don't want to have, one card with $100 and have it be 2,500 there. I like rotating through a lot of them just so that I get an opportunity where when I'm right about a couple and I get the correlation on my core three plays like that, I get the 4, 5, 6 flex plays to really pay off for me.
Yeah. And also don't forget, throughout the playoffs, PrizePicks is running a $1 million giveaway where all you have to do is enter a 6-leg flex parlay in the morning. They're going to pick one person randomly to have a chance to win $1 million. All you have to do is enter a 6-leg flex parlay. And by the way, something else also, you have to be signed up at PrizePicks to take advantage of that. So if you guys aren't at PrizePicks, sign up using our link below. I also want to read off some of the projections that we have over at Stokastic.com because there are some players who are projecting well for us in terms of the player props here that I want to highlight. Also, though, we've got Marquee Music Group in the YouTube chat. He's just throwing out some of his favorite PrizePicks plays here, and I think we should give him some shine here. Read off what it is that he is looking at here. He's got James Harden over 8 assists. He's got Tatum over 29.5 points. He's got Derek White under 3.5 rebounds and Tobias Harris under 6 rebounds. So that comes from Marquee Music Group in the chat. If you guys want to tail anybody in the YouTube chat, Marquee Music Group right there. And one other thing, too, that I really wanted to mention. My favorite pick here on PrizePicks coming from our data. Number one, are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
How ready, though?
Readier than you. Well, no, I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there.
Okay.
I'm readier than Jordan Klein is to use somebody else's credit card at dinner.
All right. Look at that.
He just heard me. It took him a second.
Jordan Klein, a little bit of a moocher over there?
Slightly, moment to moment. It depends on the day, but I mean, if it's ending in Y, yes, he is that way.
He's got the old alligator arms when the check comes out.
Oh no, please let me help you with that.
I would like to, but I just can't reach it. It's so far away. Oh my God, it's 3 feet. Whose arms are that long? It's impossible. Yeah, who do you think I am, Victor Wembanyama? Yeah, no way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild how Jordan Klein gets really, really quiet. I gotta use the restroom 20 minutes later.
So our pick'em package, which if you guys want to get access to and haven't signed up, if you guys are playing at sites like PrizePicks, any of these pick'em contests, we have projections for it over at Stokastic. You get access to it for less than $5. We've got all the prop lines in here for the players. We've got our projections, and then we've got the expected win rate on all of these. The over-under for Paul Reed's rebounds is 5 today. That seems pretty high with Joel Embiid being back.
It's a very big number.
Yeah. It's our number one rated prop of the day.
This is the hardest part about talking about a one-game slate, just for everybody going forward, because this is the first time I've been on a live before lock covering a one-game slate in a while. There are times that you have to differentiate a bet from a pick'em site from a DFS play, because it's all relative to ownership for a DFS play. It's all relative to what's the price when it comes to betting, and it's all relative to expected win percentage when it comes to pick'em. So like, we have to kind of take a grain of salt with everything that we're looking at. Paul Reed makes sense at his ownership as somebody to play in the event that you think Joel Embiid is limited or just, going to be ineffective or there's a blowout. 5 rebounds is a shit ton of rebounds for Paul Reed to be projected for with a baseline of 32, 33 minutes for Joel Embiid.
And by the way, there's a chance Joel Embiid plays more than that, and Paul Reed is like a minor piece of the rotation. Paul Reed might play 6 minutes, depending how healthy Joel Embiid is looking. But Paul Reed, over under 5 rebounds, we've got him projected for 3.7. Also, James Harden. This is pretty crazy. James Harden over under for rebounds is the same as Paul Reed's. James Harden's rebound number is over under 5.0. We have him for 6.4. So those are our 2 top props of the night. Paul Reed under 5 rebounds, James Harden over 5. And we just got the Sixers starting lineup. No surprises here. Harden, Maxey, Harris, Tucker, and Embiid. There's your starting 5 for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, let's get back to answering some of your guys' questions, and let's see what came in while we were talking about prize picks. James Magruder, best utility player, 6,200 or less, but it cannot be Brogdon. Off the top of my head, that would end up being Derek White then.
What? 6,200 or less? I'm still going to go Robert Williams.
Yeah, if you're just picking one player and it could be anybody, 6,200 or less, like it has to be Derek White for me. You could definitely leave salary on the table and go with Robert Williams, but if it's just like one spot who I think should be projected the best there, I'm going to say
that's
Derek
true.
White.
I'm taking this stand to the moon today, so it is kind of just what it is. Also, is there a 1K player that you're actually interested in rostering today to try to like maybe run into a minute or two for some of these other wonky game scripts? Because I'm having a tough time picking out who I would want that one to be.
I mean, like who the options down here? It's Champagne, it's Louis, it's Louis King, Louis or Lewis. Nobody really knows for sure. I believe he's related to Louis C.K. Mike Muscala, Jaden Springer, Mifondu Kabengele. Like these options are not viable from a projection standpoint.
So the one guy I threw in there for my 1K where I'm maxing it out is Furkan Korkmaz. Probably not a good idea. But again, I don't. Sometimes you run into these builds where it's like, oh, 1K in order to play Tatum captain, have everything else there. And if you can run into like the one bucket from somebody, there's a way that works out optimally. So I just wanted to throw it out there where that's the only guy that I'm playing in the 1K spot where I'm just trying to get to like the other studs on the slate.
Yes. I mean, the way I look at it, it's what's the realistic path for one of these 1K guys to be optimal? It's a blowout and somebody ends up playing 3 minutes at the end of the game and puts up, like 6 fantasy points and a bunch of the studs go nuts. Is that the path that you're envisioning? A 1K guy is optimal?
Or it ends up being like the lineup that I'm staring at right now is Jaylen Brown and the captain. And then it's basically just jamming all the studs outside of James Harden, where I get to Embiid, I get to Tatum, I play Robert Williams. And like it could have been a $1,200 player. So Sam Hauser could actually go in that lineup, but I feel like that's even something that people are going to land on. So it's like Danwell House, Furkan Korkmaz, Shake Milton. Those were kind of the 3 that I had it narrowed down to for like what ends up being optimal. If Jaylen Brown goes for 60, Embiid goes for 55, Maxey has a game that we know he's capable of, puts up 30 plus points and 40 plus fantasy points. Robert Williams plays the way I anticipate him to. Like that path makes sense for how a lineup works out. It's very unlikely, but it's something that's untapped. So I was just trying to see if you had any take for like a 1K guy that actually made sense.
Am I allowed to go a little bit more expensive? Can I say Sam Hauser at 1,200? Because people aren't playing like Sam Hauser costs 1,200 in the utility and people aren't rostering him. He's projected for less than 10% ownership, and I think he's actually going to get minutes today.
Yeah, he played 5 minutes last game. Answer. So yeah, that's fine. I just thought that he might be the one that people land on that kind of a build. And it might inflate his ownership because you're just like hand building out some, seeing how it lands. And I'm playing a couple of single entry things that I just added while we were on this show. So I thought I'd at least talk through what that looked like.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very reasonable question. If you have the $200 extra, I strongly prefer Sam Hauser to Furkan Korkmaz, or people in the chat bring up Mac McClung for some reason. He won the dunk contest.
He's now, I was going to say, he's going to go out there down 50 and just put on a show. That'd be fun, actually. I'm okay with that. Sam Hauser, welcome to my single entry lineup. Greg, this is on you.
All right. Also, not what I was recommending. Just if you could play one guy, if you had to play one guy, who would it be? We actually got a super chat about that as well just now. Nathan Feudy said, who's the best DraftKings player, 1,800 or less? It's by default for me, Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser is the only player who I think realistically plays minutes who's 1,800 or less.
Fair.
Let me just check to see. Yeah, nobody else. Nobody. Oh, actually, I mean, George Nyang fits that. Never mind. There's George Nyang there. Here's the George Nyang, though, is really, really popular. So relative to ownership, I prefer Hauser in large field tournaments, but Nyang should project better than Hauser. Tournaments, I do like Nyang. I mean, I like Hauser better for tournaments. Nyang should project better. So this is a cash game question, the answer would be Nyang. But what are you doing with Nyang as a guy who's, fairly popular at his price point? He's projected for 33.3% ownership.
I have 0%, so that's cool.
He's popular.
I have 0.
I think Hauser's the pivot there.
Oh God. Yeah, I have 0. I've legitimately 0 at his current ownership. Because again, you run the, it's just not going to happen for me. I'd rather play pretty much any other player on the slate relative to ownership before I played George Niang.
We got a very specific super chat here. Very specific from Avi Schreier. All right. So you have to get but if you get this wrong, Eric, you're fired. That's the rule I'm setting here.
It's aggressive.
All right. So Avi wants to know, what do you guys think will be the final score tonight? Your job's on the line, Eric.
I'm fired. Cool. half of Chad celebrates and throws a parade in the streets. The other half cries, laments, stays home. It's like Egypt back in the day.
Joy.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's go with 113, 111 Sixers.
I'm going to say the Celtics win tonight in a blowout.
Well, what's the score?
So here's what it's going to be. This isn't a prediction. This is telling you guys the facts of what it is. And it's hard to know, right? Because the writers are on strike. We don't know how the NBA is going to be scripted. They just have to play the NBA game out as it's supposed to be played. This is uncharted territory. And because I think game 1 was scripted, and I think game 2 plays to how the talent of the teams actually are, I think the Celtics end up winning this game 115 to 102. And then there are crazy overreactions in the media about, are these 76ers better without Joel Embiid? That's how it plays out.
Stop it.
You know that if the Celtics win a blowout, there are going to be those dumb takes, though. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'll just log off Twitter for the night, live in harmony.
I'll lead the charge. I'll lead the charge just to troll.
I know, but yeah, I was gonna say you do it for different reasons. That doesn't count. Like doing it for attention purposes because you're a little hooer to get your attention hooer off. Like there's really no doubt about it.
I've never eaten chalk on a show before. I've never shaved my eyebrows on a show.
I have.
I just sit here. I do my job. I talk about sports, and I occasionally turn my camera off to sneeze.
But you were just such a big name when you got here. I had to make my mark. And the only way to do that was being a lunatic and have people look at me. And now it's like, I'm good. I'm
Brandon Katz's grandfather just left us a super chat that said that he left to go get some cigarettes. That makes sense. Lack of father figure. I see what ended up happening.
It makes complete sense to me.
Next super chat here is from Clintwood83. Would you recommend a lock at captain for DK single entry?
Well, I mean, for DK single entry, you only get to play one captain, so they're going to be a lock at captain. Like that's hilarious. It's one entry.
Yeah, I would make jokes about this, but I don't want to get myself in trouble.
I have 2 single entry lineups, so I guess that's ironic for what I just said. But Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams are my 2 favorite captains. Jason Tatum is the chalk I'm willing to eat, and I'm a little bit over the field as of right now too. But Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams, I have a ton of.
Yeah, I like Robert Williams as a contrarian captain. We talked about it before. So it depends how contrarian you guys are looking to get there. But yeah, I have no issue Robert Williams being the guy you go to in single entry. Now let's get to your guys' questions in Discord, and let's see if we have any. If you guys have questions, at me in Discord, and we will answer them right now.
People want FanDuel. We've talked about FanDuel. We already threw out everything. FanDuel is like it's an untamed beast today. That is for damn sure. It's going to be tough sledding to get yourself different over there as it stands right now. Again, the easiest way, don't play Embiid or Tatum up there in the MVP spot, but I'm more inclined to be jamming Tatum. If you're looking for like an off the wall for like your pro spot, star spot, things of that nature, I really do like Tyrese Maxey as somebody to possibly go out and completely nuke a slate. Like he is very, very live to go out and do that. So that's a piece that for DK as well. He's the one Philadelphia piece that I'm overweight in the captain spot too. I don't think there's any other player from Philly I'm overweight to in the captain spot.
Let's see. So we could run through, and also, I mean, we're just answering you guys' questions. So whatever people ask us about is, whatever super chats we get, we're answering them. We just had more DraftKings ones than FanDuel the other day when we were doing this. It was almost entirely FanDuel questions. So I will let you guys, dictate whatever it is that you want to talk about. And, sometimes you guys have had big wins as of late. In particular, Jordan, can you pull up the guy who messaged us yesterday? Crazy. I don't think I've ever seen an ROI like this before, Eric. And I know some people are impressed with whatever. Cool. Steve Buzzard won $100,000 for the 10th time in 8 days across both sports. But I'm actually more impressed with our friend here who messaged us on Twitter this morning.
Ooh, daddy.
Mr. 586. Last night, his entry fees, 35 cents. His return was $616.66.
Pretty wild.
It's pretty good ROI. He tweeted at us at the Stokastic Hall of Fame, said, new to DFS. That's a pretty good start here. But then he also said that he's looking for a free month here. He wants to be in the Stokastic Hall of Fame. So we obliged. Mr. 586, you are going to be nominated into Hall of Fame. You're going to get yourself 1 free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. Thank you for messaging us as well. Anybody have wins? You're watching the show and we help you out in any way, add us and you get into the Hall of Fame at the end of the day. All you have to do is download the Stokastic avatar so people could see that it is you are supporting us when you're at the top of contest. And then also, because we don't just know if you won, add us at Stokastic HOF so we know that you ended up winning. And if you want access to all the tools we have at Stokastic, I know I mentioned before that, maybe it's cool. Steve won $100,000 for the millionth time in a row. And, it's getting a little bit old. We want to give more people a chance to win. We want more people a chance to win other than just Steve Buzzard. So to give everybody a chance to win as well, we have a new promo going on, May Bundle. So to celebrate Steve winning every other day, $100,000 in DFS, right now, you can get 3 days of either our weekly or monthly package. The first 3 days you're going to get for $5 when you sign up using the promo code May Bundle. There's a link below that already has the promo code loaded in. So if you want to get access to our tools and get them for really cheap, 3 days for $5. First 3 days. So it could be on a weekly package or a monthly, whichever it is you prefer. Just sign up using the link that we have below. And like our friend right here, Mr. 586, he is going to be getting himself 1 free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. Now, looks like we have no questions in the Discord channel for us right now. If you guys have questions, oh, well, somebody added me. Malcolm Judge added me, but there's no question here. Oh, okay, above. He wants to know cash core for DK and FanDuel cash. So let's look at it. MVP and captain, both DraftKings and FanDuel. Jason Tatum's the cash play, correct?
Correct.
For value,
let me double check that because based on a couple of things, I could just have to take randomness off here 1 second. I think it's important to just make sure that I don't say that because I was gonna say Robert Williams is my optimal captain, but that shouldn't surprise you based off of everything I said.
Yeah, I wouldn't play him in cash game.
I wouldn't either. Jason Tatum. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So cash cores for DK, FanDuel cash. Yeah. So Jason Tatum should be in there. I don't know that I play Joel Embiid in cash games. Would you?
I don't think I would either.
Cash? Don't think I would. I would. My pay-ups, I would go Tatum, Harden, and Brown if you can make it work. I would go Nyang for cheap. He's so popular for cash games. I think the salary savings are going to be important for DraftKings. We'll do FanDuel afterwards, but starting with DraftKings, would you play Nyang in cash? 33% ownership gives you the ability to spend up for who you want.
No, I probably wouldn't.
Really? So where would you go for salary savings then?
I'm kind of like piecing it together here right now. You got me thinking, so I want to make sure I build it out. I think probably what I would end up doing is bypassing. I think we're on the same page. It's going to be very, very difficult to get yourself to Joel Embiid in a cash game type setting. Mm-hmm. I think I'm more inclined to play Jaden McDaniels. And then, I think I'm more inclined to play Jaden McDaniels. Probably not even playing. I mean, you got to play one of Harden or Embiid. That feels just foolish not to have one of them. I am more inclined to play James Harden there for sure. And then let's see, Malcolm Brogdon. I'm just going straight through. The other thing about it, too, is that neither of us like Derek White for tournaments. You're playing Derek White in cash, right?
He's in my highest projected lineup, so I'll say yes. I also have Nyang in my highest projected lineup. So I would go pay-ups, I think you jam in Tatum, Brown, and Harden. You go Nyang for cheap, then you just fit in the other 2 spots with whoever fits.
Yeah, I'm much more inclined, just the build that I just threw together here for cash game purposes. I would rather play Jalen McDaniels.
And now if we talk about this for FanDuel purposes, what would you be looking at for FanDuel? So I think MVP, it's going to be Jason Tatum. Just because of the way that everything works differently on FanDuel, I would still go Tatum MVP, and then I would go Embiid star on FanDuel. Would you be willing to do that with Joel Embiid for FanDuel purposes?
Yes.
And then for value, I would look at Derek White and Robert Williams as being 8,500, 8,000. Those are my 2 favorite cheap plays on FanDuel. I know I built out. Yeah, I built out almost the entire lineup there, and then
I did too.
Fit in whoever you choose.
Yep,
that's the way I think you should be going.
Yeah, Robert Williams on FanDuel, especially where you get the bump for blocks. If I'm correct about the minutes, which I find 20 to be a kind of a floor situation here, I would be surprised if he didn't play more today.
All right, I hope that helps you build out your lineups there, Malcolm Judge, and then Sean Sullivan Jr. in our Discord channels asked us DK single entry, Maxey and Brogdon, or Harris and Smart. So Maxey and Brogdon on one side, Tobias Harris and Marcus Smart on the other. I don't find there to be a significant difference between that 2v2.
Me either. I was trying to come up with a take, and I don't have one.
I'll say Maxey and Brogdon. I just eyeballed it, and I have them a little.
Yeah, I have both of those 2 more than I have the other 2, but I don't think it's like a necessarily bad thing to have the other 2. And I would hate for you to get in a situation where you had a lean, and then again, I'm playing only tournaments. I'm not playing cash, and I'm not playing like just one lineup. I'm playing multiple lineups, but for single entry and such, I'm still more on the Maxey and Brogdon side.
And then we got a super chat here from Avi Schreier with another follow-up. He says, can you rank Brogdon, Smart, and White on FanDuel? You're damn right we can. Brogdon, Smart, and White. What if there was just one of these questions like, I'm not capable. I don't know how. I could do this one, though.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, what are my hands? Or it's like Jordan, the check comes out. I don't know what to do with my hands. Where do they go? They stay in my pockets, right?
No, I gotta go. My mom called.
Yeah, it just doesn't. What do I do with my hands? They won't move. They won't grab the check. To reiterate,
my wallet, it's stuck. It's stuck.
It's so big because I wear these skinny jeans, and then I have this fat wallet with a lot of cash in it that I can't spend. But what can you do about it? Eric, can you get the check?
Tough break.
Avi wanted to know Brogdon, Smart, and White on FanDuel. Let's see.
Brogdon 1, Smart 2, White 3, but the exact reverse for cash.
So for FanDuel, for me, it would help if I had FanDuel pulled up and not DraftKings, right? I was like, boy, this seems like weird pricing. Yeah, because you're on the wrong site, you dunderhead.
Right.
Utility spot. Let's look at these prices here. All right. So for me, for FanDuel purposes, it is going to be Malcolm Brogdon 1 with a bullet. I mean, that's easy for me to say Brogdon 1. I'm going to go Derek White 2 and Marcus Smart 3 just because of pricing. Marcus Smart at $9,500 as I'm looking at the lineups I built on FanDuel. It's kind of a hard price point to get to.
Yep.
So Brogdon 1, White 2, Marcus Smart 3. Did you have the same order as me, by the way?
I do.
There we go.
Hang on. You said Smart 3?
Yeah, his salary at $9,500.
Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense for FanDuel. Yes. Cool. Correct. Yeah, stop picking on Jordan. Never, Obi-Wan. Never. He deserves
Somebody leave a comment about Jordan here.
Yeah. Eric, you're beating up on Jordan. Oh, stop it.
Anthony DLC, please don't disrespect Greg's cash or skinny jeans. We're disrespecting Jordan Klein, not me. And that's okay. That's okay with all of us. Jordan's welcome to defend himself, but he doesn't like to talk to you guys. So let's see what we have that we have not yet talked about on the slate. And we haven't really talked about the FanDuel as much because we didn't have as much super chats for it. We haven't talked about the star of the pro spot very much, Eric. Do you want to dive into that? Dive into the star and the pro spot on FanDuel?
Would love to.
All right.
There's nothing I want more than to do that.
Yeah, I kind of get that sense. So we look at the current exposures, projected ownership for the star spot on FanDuel. Jaylen Brown coming in the most popular. We've got 21% ownership going to Jaylen Brown, Harden 19%, Embiid 17%, Maxey 15%, Tatum 14%. We're really spread out here. There's not one guy that's projected for a massive amount of ownership in the star spot. Who is your favorite star option? And do you have a contrarian play you like here?
I mean, Star, I gotta like Robert Williams for it, right? He's 8K. There's a chance where he goes completely berserk and plays 26, 28 minutes. Like, I don't think that's very likely, but that likeliness is countered by the fact that nobody's going to have him there. So I think, as insane as it is, just go back a year to the playoffs. I mean, I can go into the box scores from last season. I know it was different situation, different you had Malcolm Brogdon as an addition later on. Like there's a lot of things that might look different, but like Robert Williams, where he could get 5 blocks, 2 steals, and just completely nuke in that regard. I think that's live.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. The other thing too is, like you said, it's just the ownership is so low. Like if you had to pick somebody who's not picking up ownership on FanDuel, your options in the star spot, it's Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Paul Reed. Wouldn't be Paul Reed for me. And then it's Brogdon. Actually, I'd be more inclined to go Brogdon. Brogdon's is projected for less than 1% ownership.
I'm here for that too.
And by the way, these guys also make sense for the pro spot. I would be more inclined to take a shot on Brogdon in the star spot, maybe Robert Williams in the pro spot, just because I think there's a more realistic path to minutes upside for Malcolm Brogdon. But I think both those guys are pretty good multiplier plays over on FanDuel that aren't picking up any kind of ownership. If you're going to go chalky, though, right, your chalky options in the star spot, Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, of those guys, is the one that stands out above the rest of you from just a popularity standpoint?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown, because he's 14.5. And if you're going to go Tatum Brown, Joel Embiid Brown, Harden Brown, you can still round together a pretty decent lineup. It's really hard to avoid on FanDuel Jaylen Brown at that kind of a tag where he's 1,500 less than Harden and projected within 3 fantasy points for FanDuel purposes.
Yeah, I could get behind that for sure. And let's see if we're looking in the pro spot now, just so you guys are getting the ownership here. Tobias Harris is by far the most popular pro play. Does this surprise you? Tobias Harris, 18% owned as the pro, and nobody else is north of 12%.
Not really. Just you build out the lineups. He just kind of ends up being the readily available one. He's 1,500 less than Maxey, which just speaks to why you want to get to Maxey in tournaments, why you want to get to contrarian star play in tournaments. Like there's nothing stopping you from being able to get to Maxey there. It's just going to be sacrifice of your MVP play. Like you're probably not going to be able to get Tatum and Embiid in that lineup. You're probably not going to be able to get Tatum and Harden in that lineup. So it's pretty apparent that Tobias Harris would show up as that guy. Now, the easy way is to go down to the Brogdons, to the Robert Williams, talk through that process that we did where one of these guys pops and ends up in your star spot, and then you put Tobias Harris down in the utility, or, God forbid, the star. I mean, again, I'm not going to go on a limb for that kind of extent for Tobias Harris, but it definitely makes sense to kind of find a different piece that's a little bit cheaper, 4K cheaper Robert Williams. I would rather just flip-flop those two between utility and star.
Some more questions in our Discord chat. First from Swaz, White or Brogdon? Straight up, Brogdon. Eric and I have both been on Brogdon over Derek White. Bro. Our guy Peter Viles, he is in Discord chat, and he's asking us, what is our take on 1K players for DK main GPP? Any worthy players? Oh, so
like the exact thing that I was talking about, Peter? My dude? Bro. Come on, dude. Well, you're not winning enough money already? You need to know? To was literally
support our friend here. You talked about that 50 minutes ago, and most people don't really give a shit about what you have to say. He asked what my take was on it. Your guy was Furkan Korkmaz, if I remember correct. I listened to what you say. Not everybody does.
Furkan Korkmaz. Those were the two. Shut up. I have to do this again tomorrow. Great.
Another 1-game slate as well. Let's see. If I had to play one guy for 1K, just absolutely had to, and I start to consider who was not in the rotation last game that could be for this game, I'm going to say that there's opportunity for, boy, it's tough. It's the answers are not good. Yeah. Because I love Eric, I'm going to not say Furkan Korkmaz.
Oh, okay. Great. Thanks.
Instead, I am going to answer. I'm going to say, okay, so this is very off the board. Are you ready for a really, really dumb suggestion?
Yep.
Mike Muscala.
That's not stupid.
I'm just looking at what could the Celtics possibly do different this game from last game and what could influence a change in the rotation. And it's pretty clearly Joel Embiid playing. If they're just trying to do something to mix it up with the big man rotation because Embiid is there, I'll say Muscala. It's a super thin play, but we're talking about the largest fields of GPPs, which I know is what a Humbro is asking us about. I'm going to say Muscala. Also, Muscala probably plays garbage time if the game's a blowout.
It's true. These are true things. Don't forget Blake Griffin. Maybe I'm just like in the back of my head about this, but I know that he showed up in that Atlanta series for at least one game. That was the other thing, that it's just like trying to go through all the 1K players, the ones I landed on the most. Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this enough. I'll move on.
The real AD 2v2, Horford and Melton or Smart and Brogdon on FanDuel. That is Smart and Brogdon for me.
Yes, same.
And it really has to do with just, it's hard to carve out a ton of minutes for DeAnthony Melton now that we've got Joel Embiid back in the picture. There's not going to be playing as many small lineups unless something just goes horribly wrong with him. So just because of the minute security, I'm going to go with the Smart and Brogdon side of it. And it seems like you were on the same page there. We have answered all of your guys' questions, just making sure that there's no outstanding questions here, which there isn't. We've got like a minute to go here until lock. Doesn't have to be anything, Eric. If your answer is nothing, that's totally cool. But is there anything we haven't covered over the course of this last hour that you want to bring to the people before we log off?
Yeah. So it's sometimes we get in the habit of like wanting to have a take about things when it comes to sports. And before I was like, oh, this 2v2, I'm trying to have a take. Sometimes it's good to embrace like the 5-1s, having 5 Celtics, or I think nobody is going to have 5 Philadelphia 76ers in a lineup and 1 Celtics. So things like that, and price plays into it, game script plays into it. A lot of things go into it, but at the end of the day, you're trying to find little pockets where people haven't built lineups like you. And I think the easiest way to do it is think about your builds in that regard. Don't assume health for Joel Embiid, and also don't assume that he's going to be playing 40 minutes. So finding different builds just so that when you are correct or when you have that pocket, you get paid for it.
All right. And by the way, we got a message in chat. Marv Perry saying to stop it. So I will oblige. This is the end of the show. If you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Prize Picks, who sponsored our show today. Don't forget, if you're signing up at Prize Picks, use the link below. Up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. That does it for us today, guys. Have a great night. Enjoy the game. Good luck. See you tomorrow.